1 hour long learning session about sales with the man himself, Grant Cardone, which is my favorite mentor of all. I love learning about sales. So right now I'm on a course about negotiations and closing the deal. So I'm gonna check on that. Right now I'm specifically on negotiations. I'm gonna go live on Instagram as well. So don't forget you guys on the Instagram. Let's go. Okay, I'm live on Instagram as well, checking connections. Let's go. So, guys, as I told in the live on Restream, basically, if you want to follow the live, I'm doing this every day. Role playing, learning about sales, learning about marketing. I'm doing this every morning in France. So, you guys can learn with me what I'm learning about marketing. Right now is learning about sales, specifically about closing the deal. So, let's get started right away. So, all questions. Have you seen enough to make a decision? That's the best. It's the best thing you can ask. What happens if you don't do it? I have questions. I'm gonna do a little like because Grant really goes fast at the whole thing. So what I'm gonna do basically is that I'm gonna basically say a few things when I'm seeing them, and when I'm like, um, hey, what's up, Eventually, long time, yeah. Actually doing some learning and I'm teaching the thing. So what I'm gonna do is basically, when I've got a few snippets, I'm gonna say them, but it goes really fast. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to that and do that. And when the lesson specifically is finished, I'm gonna do a whole like summary of what I've learned in that whole video. What is the worst thing that can happen if you don't do this? When was the last time you made a great decision? Ask the questions, guys, and get answers. It's really important right there. So just sheet and that. You gotta ask hard questions to get the answers to your questions, man. Builds a lot of trust. That's pretty important to ask hard questions when not selling the thing. Really important. So what I'm doing currently is basically I'm learning about sales eventually. So what I'm doing is that yeah, I'm learning about a few courses and I'm transmitting the information right away on live. That way I can learn the thing right away because the best way to learn something is to teaching it. That's what I'm doing. I don't have any more money to give you. When you say I don't have any more money to give you, yeah, that's amazing, right? Big problems. So what I mean by having a big problem is basically, for example, when you try to sell something that's really like a low product, or for example, you have a few options, like you have options to sell it month by month, or sell it a whole year package. What I would advise you to do is address the big problem. So that's pretty important because when you're talking, for example, about $60,000 instead of like 1,000 a month, when you talk about a big problem like that, and you have room to go back to little like products that's much better because you have the opportunity to be like, okay, that's cheap compared to what I talked about, and I still resolve the. How can you justify it? That's a good question to ask. Okay. Yeah, really important. I forgot about this. Do you have a pencil handy? That's really important. I'm going to share with you why, so stay tuned. Huh. Be energetic. Have some energy, man. Big notes, guy. Take big notes. A bad writing is better than a good memory. Your whole life depends on the negotiation. So, something really important that Grant's talking about, for example, if you don't have confidence in yourself right now, what you need to do is to get confidence from someone that you are basically that you're confident about, mental. So, what I'm studying currently, Dev, is studying about negotiations and closing. So, I'm gonna do a little recap here. I just have a little like questionnaire at the end of the lesson. So what is an inquisition? It's asking hard questions. So asking the hard questions include the why, the when, the what. Basically, that's all the above. The why, the when, and the what. You just have to ask the hard questions that's gonna build trust. Then da happens when you do not ask hard questions. Both party becomes frustrated. Deal fatigue. You don't ask hard questions, the deals gets like all sticky and nothing's happened. So okay, here are the notes I got from that session. So basically, questions that you need to ask in order to get the whole thing done, because our questions are really important. They help you getting trust built. Basically, don't have to build trust by staying with the customer. You just have to build trust by asking the hard questions and getting answer to those. For example, hard questions example can be like, have you seen enough to make a decision? That's something you're going to use really often when you're selling the thing. When you see that the person is able to buy the thing, and you're like, okay, whenever you do something in your demo, and you're like, okay, share something that's you're sure the person is liking, you have to make sure that person is really like only talk about the things that that person is interested in. And after each thing you'll talk to them about, or you see that you have an opportunity that there are some kind of ready to go, you ask that questions. Have you seen enough to make a decision? And that's going to be your transition point to the close of the negotiations. So another hard questions you can do is, what happens if you don't do this? What happens if you do this? It's a great question to ask. What is the worst thing that could happen if you don't do this? Or if you do this, you can ask the in both ways. Um, I don't have any more money to give you. It's basically when you are already like trying to stretch a bit the deal, not price wise. Never lower your price. Never do that thing, because that's something that's gonna basically drop your value. Like, how much value do you think you have in front of a customer if you're like, okay, I'm gonna give you a discount, the lower price, man? Like, give something else if you have something to give. That's the only thing you need to do. At least, I don't know, give another program or give a book for free or do something, a hug even. That's more value than money. Because money is just a number, it's just a made up number. Like, for example, someone said, okay, this pen is worth that. But I don't know, maybe in some kind of odd, strange dimension, it's worth a totally odd amount of numbers. Money is just numbers. Remember that. Money is just numbers. That's really important to understand. Okay, so then what I've learned is that you need to ask the questions, take notes. As I told you, I don't know if you catch that, guys. A little, which was the quote already. A bad writing is better than a good memory. And what I'm doing as well, great lesson to teach you guys, is to, when you teach something, it's gonna stick in your head much, much better. So you gotta do that. How could you justify, for example, how could you justify the investment you are gonna make? How can you justify this purchase? How can you justify spending $1 million on X? That's basically something you're gonna do in order to really validate the purchase. Like, for example, that's going to be one of the last thing you're going to do in the cycle when you're done with the close, when you're done with that whole thing. What you're going to do is to ask that question, be like, okay, how can you justify doing this? So the buyer will basically validate that whole thing they did, and basically be like, okay, I'm going to do this for that reason, and that reason, and I'm going to do that. It's basically why you ask that question. So, do you have a pencil handy? And that's the one I really, really like circled around, because a really important principle in selling is that you need to show, don't tell. So when you have the occasion to show something to a person, you do it. So that's why when you're over the phone, like right now with how do you say that? I don't remember the correct way to say it. Um, when you're over the phone, basically what you need to do is to show the person written materials, images, something like this. You need to show them something. Show, don't tell. People trust more what you see, what they see, than what you tell them. Specifically when you do cold calling, they're like, who the fuck is this person? You need to show them facts, third-party informations, facts. So that's why the question, do you have a pencil handy? And you ask them to write specific numbers, specific things. That way they can see and make sense of the whole thing visually. That's much better. It builds a lot of trust. So, another thing, have some energy. I took the note right now. Grant talked about having some energy. Man, I was tired. Like, see that those things like right here. I'm so tired right now. It's like it's gonna be 7 a.m. I woke up at 4. Like it's harsh, man. It's harsh. I'm tired, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go through my day. That's what I'm gonna do. You gotta have some energy. So that's why we're like, hey, let's go, and went hard on it. So your whole life depends on negotiations. That's really important because closing, negotiations, all those things are basically a way for you to navigate in life and do your whole thing. If you don't close, you don't get the benefit of doing that whole thing you were doing, whether it's money, or it's getting somebody to spend the rest of your life with, or pretty much anything. You need to close the deal. If not, you're not going to get the results in all the talking that you did, or all the whole process you did before is not going to be worth anything because you didn't close. That's why. You gotta be confident, find some way, find someone. Okay, so that's really important. I'm gonna launch the last lesson, the next lesson after that. When you're not confident about yourself, what you need to do in the beginning, two things. You need to build confidence with actions and success. So you need to like be like, okay, I'm going to start my journey to making my whole thing my own success and getting success here so I can truly get some confidence in myself. But when you are not confident during that process, what you need to do is to find someone you're confident, you have some confidence in. For me, it's Grant Cardone. Find some people that you are confident about and that you'll be like, okay, I trust that person and be them. Do the same things as they did until you are confident about yourself. All right, that's a great fire job right here. So next lesson, it's 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Getting faster. The one thing. What is the one? Let's go and discover that. So no deal does not close because of one thing. No deal don't close because of one thing, but you've got to find that one thing. And it's either product, stall, time, or money. It's one of the four. One of the four. You've got to find a reason. You have to find a reason why it's not closing. The wrong reason. It's either product, a stall, time, or money. Really have to probe, see what's the one. Sean forgot what it meant. One thing. It's basically telling that it's basically a knot. You've got to find the one string that if you pull, the whole thing like opens up. That's basically what's happening. Whether it's product, time, stall, or money. And sometimes they are gonna tell you that we're gonna just take another minute. Replay that part because it was really good. Oh yeah, I love selling to these. I love selling. I really love it. And let me tell you something. At the beginning, I wasn't because there's something really interesting, which is that um, you oftentimes hate the things that you don't know enough about. I hated selling because I had no idea how to do it. But after some times, when I took the right mentors and I've learned about the thing, like I'm so enthusiastic about doing that thing. But I'm sure, like, if I put you in front of a script and you don't know about that thing, you're gonna be like, "Oh fuck, I hate this." And that's basically why I hated school at some point because I had some great marks, some great results, but the problem was that that's why I quit the school because I didn't understood why I was doing that. So that's why I was hating so much on it. You have to understand when you understand how, for example, if you hate mathematics, for example, and that's something that happened to me. I hated math for a simple reason because I didn't know how to do the math I was asked to do. And by the way, I didn't know why I was doing that whole thing. But when I learned about Grant's way to do math, which is my mentor, Grant Cardone way to do math, I started to learn math because those were practical and they actually helped me to understand, okay, what were the specific numbers for example, cold calls a day, sales a day, things per day that I need to do in order to reach my goals. So that's really practical, and I really fell in love with that way to do math. But you gotta understand the whole thing first. In school, if you get only bad grades, of course you're gonna hate it. Like you're gonna hate it from the bottom of your heart. You're gonna hate it like so hard. But if you start to learn how to get better, and you get better marks and better and better, and at the end, imagine you are the first one of your class. I think you're gonna have a different point of view on that thing you're just aiding on because you know how to deliver great results. You know how to deliver great results, and you're gonna more like love much more that thing, whatever it is in life. Actually, what is the one thing holding on? Hmm, what is the one thing I need to fix? My age, I'm 20. I'm 20. Yeah, I know I seem pretty young, but I'm 20. Just 20 actually for like two weeks actually. We have to break this down. And maybe for example, um if you're on money, sometimes you really have to dive deep into which part it is. Maybe it's the terms, maybe it's the down payment, maybe it's the whole thing. You really have to guess that. 25. Damn, I look old. Look old as shit. Then dive deep. So the lesson is finished. Dive deep into the specific one thing. Example, money down payment. Okay, so we're gonna have a little questionnaire after each video. There is no one thing blows a deal. Remember that. What does PTSM stand for? It stands for price. No, in that situation, you say the product time store money. Then, what must someone do in order to find the PTSM? Also, ask the odd question to find the one thing. Okay, next lesson. So let's do a little recap right now. So let's do a little recap, a little summary. So the one thing that's a great way to negotiate because when you have the one thing, there is like no one thing you're gonna say is gonna ever blow a deal. For example, like if you I don't know curse at some point, this is not gonna blow a deal. So and if you're really scared about blowing up a deal, it's because you don't have a full pipeline enough. You need to have a wide pipeline with loads of customers. That's really, really important. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to be scared about, okay, I'm going to lose that customer and I don't have another one to replace it. That's really important to have a full pipeline. So you have to ask the hard question, which is to find the motive, the one thing they are not doing the deal. Because there is one reason they are not doing it that you don't know about. So it's either PTSM, price, stall, time, and money. It's one of those four. So price, no, excuse me, products, time, stall, money. So product, stall, time, and money. It's one of just one of them. You have to find the one that is really bothering the customer and the reason why they are not doing the thing. So the hard questions to ask in that situation is simple. Actually, you have two variables you can ask. So it's basically the same thing. So it's what is the one thing that if I fix it now for you, right now, you say Amen. What is the one thing that if I fix it right now, you say Amen. What is the one thing I need to? Oh, I didn't write it. Write it. What that one fully. What is the one thing I need to do? Let's say to fix for you to say yes. So you have to ask, what is that one thing? I'm gonna highlight it so I know it's something I need to say. And then last thing I note it down. Let's dive deep into the one thing because it's okay. It's product, time, store about the money, but maybe it's about a specific thing in that. So you really have to understand what it is. Maybe it's going to be in a down payment issue, so maybe it's going to be I don't know, like a specific thing in the product. Maybe you don't have a refund policy. Maybe you don't have. Depends on the customer. So you really have to dive deep to probe and to find what it is. That one thing. So are you in a prestigious school? Heck no, I never was. I never was. Actually, I dropped out of school in May. And I was never in a prestigious school. I was like in a little public school. In France, I'm in France, so it's a bit different. It's a bit different because, in France, school is free most of the time, except private schools. But most of the population is going to public school. And so, yeah, basically, I was in public school my whole life. And when I entered my first year of college, I dropped out in the end of my first year because I really figured out it wasn't for me because when I figured out that okay, I've got the thing to do. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I already knew what I was going to do, and I was like, okay, I can do it now, or I can do it after my degree. But having my degree with the things I've learned in a few months is not going to be worth anything because I'm going to still do my own thing. I'm going to still do my thing, and I'm not learning anything. So I was like, okay, let's get more time. Let's get this done right now. Now, technique number 5, the selfish child. This is going to be a crazy one. Not make sense of the logic of the customer. Never make sense of the logic. No matter what they say, no how much sense it makes, never make sense of it. Yeah, currently in France. I'm French actually. Learn how to talk English. Hmm. Really interesting. By the way, guys, if you're interested in that show, if you really want to see me every day learning with you the things I'm learning every day to run my business and to build my career with the best people, the best resources on earth, get with me every day. Yawn. I don't know what yawn is. Create your own reality. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really, really tired. It's like really early in the morning, wake up at 4. Sorry for that. I take full responsibility for it. Okay, 25 minutes. After that, I'm going to share with you guys the exact method I'm using every day to learn my scripts, to learn basically to respond to every objections, every closing techniques I use. Thanks to this, I really like the fact that you went on the live, and I see you on the next time. I hope I see you soon, man. The boy have the most amount of control at the really hand of it. Damn, that's a great story. So, guys, let's take the quick questionnaire. So, never making sense of other people's logic when negotiating is calling what? It's called selfish child. Um, Skills is combined with logic. I don't know if that's the right one. When using time, who can benefit from the negotiations? Basically, both of us. Yeah, both of us, basically. Okay, so I don't want to distract Scholar with my inquiries. No problem. I'm not just writing anything. Anything, actually. I'm actually doing that because I want to teach you guys a few things that I'm learning every day. I love to do that. So, what's the selfish child? Basically, it's a technique that you can use in negotiations in order to get whatever you want. Basically, it's really simple, and a lot of people should do this. It's not making sense of the other person's story, reality, logic. Basically, you're like, no, this is not. Like, you don't say the no, but in your own head, you don't get convinced of their story, their version of the story, and the whole thing. You get only convinced on you and your reality. That's actually something that Trump actually uses quite often. He uses it for whatever he wants, but that's something he uses. Basically, only makes sense. It creates his own reality and basically, don't want to understand the way other people think because he know what he or she wants. But something also really interesting that Grant talked about was that for example, when you do time, when you lay out your whole timeline and the whole thing that you're doing, what's really interesting is that on that timeline, the last part of the deal, which is right here, okay, so for you guys, it will be right here, the last part of the deal, the last 1%, the buyer is in full control of the transaction. So if the whole time you have some kind of control over the sales process, in the end, that's the buyer that should take the decision to write the check or not. So understand that in the end, they have the control. So you should prepare and set up for making it so that that actions that you want to happen is going to be benefiting both of you guys, which is you and the buyer. Or if you're the buyer and the other seller, you should make it so that it sets up a great situation for both of you guys. So number 6, ground zero. Put everything on ground zero. Hmm, interesting. Dang. Hey, Isa. Hmm. Basically going to ground zero. Sorry. We need to understand that one because it's a bit tricky. It can be an awesome negotiation strategy. So I'm talking about Lisa. What I'm actually talking about is basically I'm learning from Grant Cardone about selling techniques right now. And what I'm doing is basically I'm sharing directly what I'm learning on live. That way I'm able to really retain the information much more deeply because the best way to learn is to teach that you are learning and get the information for free. That's something really cool for courses that I pay thousands of dollars to get. That's great. Have to do this. Negotiate to zero. Have to do this. Apparently, it's extremely emotional. This video right now was X. I needed at Y to make sense of it. Hmm. So then you give them a choice. I'm gonna bring that whole thing up in the end. Basically, what do? You start with like, okay, the deal that we have was at X, but to make sense of it, it's in the negotiations. To make sense of it, I need it at Y. Y will be like a lower price. So, for example, I need it to be like $2,000 more less. People are going to be like, oh, we can't do that. No, no, we can't do that. Anyway, no objections. Then after that, give choices. Take choices. Like, for example, we can do this, this, and this. I'm going to get some examples of what A, B, and C can be. Hmm. I think what I'm gonna do live thing is that I'm going to do them, but I'm gonna do them after I've learned the things because watching sometimes the guys I go over little like stories which are not like pure information for you guys. It's pretty a bit boring, I think, for you guys to watch me like be like, okay, I'm just watching something. So what I'm gonna do next time is that I'm gonna basically do like my whole sessions, and after that I will go live, do my role play, do my do my role play, and basically teach you what I've learned. That's what I'm gonna do. adjusting some things. Become the buyer. You gotta really make it so that that person feel what this person is doing and what is gonna be the situation when they don't do it yet. Oh, really interesting. All right, so that was a really interesting one and really complex one, actually. I'm gonna do the question here. So, what is it called when a deal has failed? Uh, it's called ground zero. I think. Yeah, that's basically what I'm actually learning about. When a deal is no longer beneficial for both A and B, you will need to bring the negotiations back to ground zero. In every negotiations, you want to use alternatives. Good answers. Okay, so let's do a little summary of what's happening. I'm so tired right now. So, ground zero, basically ground zero is bring the deal like, okay, you didn't do anything with the buyer at all. So, what you're going to do is that you're going to bring the deal to ground zero. You're going to be like, okay, I know the deal is at, for example, 300K, but to make sense of it, I need it at 220, for example. And let me tell you why. Because if we go to ground zero, no, actually, that's not the thing. Sorry. So, the deal was at X. I need to make sense of it, and right now I can't. So, to make sense of it, I will need to get it to put it at a lower price, which will be Y. So, Y, and then you're gonna share some options. You're gonna be like, okay, so either we do this, either we do that, or either we do that. And And after that, if the buyer is like, yeah, or seller is like, yeah, I'm not like still raging, and you'll be like, okay, let's say that we were it to ground zero. You go to ground zero, and we don't do the deal. What's gonna happen? And then what you're gonna do is to reversal. What you're gonna do is to basically put yourself in the place, in the situation of the buyer. So in the of the other person. That way, what's gonna happen? You're gonna make a list of problems that if they don't do that, is going to be worth more than the thing they are losing when you're negotiating the deal. That's pretty important. That's pretty strong. That's a great tactic to negotiate. Let's go. 2 minute one. First base. Create negotiation. Create negotiations when there isn't one. Hmm. I think I don't understand really the first base thing because I'm French and I don't really understand. Well, maybe check it out later. So I don't understand the base, first base. So basically, what you have to do is to get first base with the person, and when you're at first base, then man, you're good. But I don't really understand what is the first base. Shit, I hate being French, not understanding that whole thing. So, creating negotiations where there isn't one is called first base. Okay, so it's basically creating a negotiation when there isn't one. According to Grant, using first base when negotiating is great for um market real estate. I think it's all. In order to get good deals, which step must you take first? Get to first base. That's it. And I think that's the last one, the Genghis Khan negotiation. Alright, so I'm taking in paper, I think. I'm gonna try to stretch on that one. I'll try to make a few more researches on the first base. Alright, so let's go for the wide last one. 5 minutes. After that, I'm gonna stop the live and do a little. Actually, great. I'm gonna be right on time. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan strategy. You gotta use it even if it's really aggressive. Okay. In every deal, there is a timeline. And something happens right to the end of the sale. Right at the end. The end of the deal in the timeline is really, really, really dangerous. So you really have to close the window, making it so that it's really tight. Hey again. All right, so the Genghis Khan negotiation strategy. Gonna share it to you why when I just finished the course. So, according to Grant, if Genghis Khan isn't used, it will be used against you. Basically, it's going aggressive and making it so that you close the deal, that you compress the amount of time to get that thing done. Because if not, when the thing is going to like basically get reported to later and all the things like that, you're gonna have some trouble, man. Grant, as mentioned in this chapter, or every deal has a timeline. According to Grant, there is 72 hours window right before the deal close where the seller has full control. Full control. And that's it. That's the end of my course, I think. Yeah, I've done the negotiation course. I still like did it. Like I started this one like a few days ago, so that's normal that I finished it. So basically, let's do a little recap. Oh, shit, paper right here. Okay. So the let's do a little summary of that final lesson, and then I'm gonna go. And maybe I have some time to do other things, but I'm not sure. So the Genghis Khan strategy. So basically, the Genghis Khan is that you gotta use it. Or in other cases, it's gonna be used on you. Basically, the Genghis Khan strategy is making it so that you compress the amount of time that the buyer has control. Because if you keep them having in the phase of control, they're gonna like they're gonna for sure find a way to not do the deal and to make it so that your deal is not gonna be made. And sometimes it's gonna be really dangerous for you because adding up time can add problems with that. So you really have to compress the amount of time into making it so that okay, the time you've got, you compress it. That way, that way, guys, you always have some room to get like okay, let's go, and you keep as much control in that period as possible. And the much control you can have is to compress that amount of time. So that was it for today, guys. I see you maybe later. If you don't see me, no worries. I'm gonna do something like this every day. Maybe gonna change it up a bit. I'm just gonna do like the whole summary of the whole session I've got because going through the sessions with you is a bit boring for you guys. I totally understand that and I take full responsibility for that. I should have guessed it before it happened. So right now, what I'm gonna do is gonna check a few things and I'm gonna maybe come back. See ya.